Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up With Conspicuous. Now, today I am joined by the lovely Alex Franklin. So, thank you so much for joining today. I'm excited to dive into the world of Microsoft 365 with you. But how are you? You okay?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll find that the 30 minutes is probably just going to absolutely fly by. So, it always happens. But obviously what we will say at the start is if anyone's got any comments, whilst we've got him on the pod, then please feel free to drop them and I'll keep an eye on them. But if not, we can always answer them afterwards. But Alex, for those that don't know you, let's sort of introduce who you are, where you've come from, and where you're at now.
Yep, sure. So I'm Alex Franklin. I'm the head of modern work at a company called Intelogy. We'll come back to those in a wee while. But I started out back in the late 90s and got started, but didn't get started with SharePoint till probably around 2007. Dragged kicking and screaming from my beloved Lotus Notes at the time, God rest its soul. And but didn't look back. I was an internal consultant, and then I moved over to full-time professional services consultancy in 2013, and never looked back. I now work for Intelogy, been there happily for 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And in terms of your title and what your job role is at the moment, what does that entail?
So I am the head of a team of specialists in different areas. So with modern work, it covers content AI, teamwork and employee experience, and knowledge and information management. So we there's a lot of synergy between those teams. So we come under the umbrella of modern work and work together on a number of different projects. So I'm just head of that team. I work with the team, assigning people and sometimes sticking my nose in where it might not be wanted, but getting involved in different projects as well, because I will never want to let go.
No, that's great. I think, yeah, it is hard to let go once you're sort of in that. But
Yeah,
obviously, in terms of it, oh, I went to go say that really wrong then. How do you pronounce the name of your company? You just said it.
everyone gets it wrong. It's Intelogy.
Intelligent.
Yeah,
I had a really weird blip in my head then. I was like, Intelogy.
we've
Anyway,
had customers we've worked with for years, and they still call us Intology. We've given up. We just like, yeah, okay.
okay, that's fine. I literally had it in my, when you're like, no, you've got it in your head, you're going to say it right. And then when it came to it, I was like, no, I'm going to say it wrong. But let's talk a little bit about that business and what is it you guys specifically do?
So we are a Microsoft partner professional services company. We are celebrating 30 years this year, so we've been around a long time, since the very dawn of SharePoint and before. We have a number of different specialisms that we have with Microsoft, but we've got various practice areas that we work in across the stack. We don't deal with Dynamics, but we do cover the rest of the stack. So as I mentioned before, with modern work, you've got content AI, so that's a lot of Copilot stuff.
Yeah.
Teamwork and employee experience, which is where my background is. Knowledge and information management, so it's all about the structure and management of your data, the knowledge sharing through to retention and compliance and all that good stuff. We've also got specialists in Power Platform, so Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps. We've got a Pro Code team for the really clever devy stuff. They're based in Prague. We've got developers in India. We've also got a managed services team as well, so we have support contracts we have with our customers as well. I hope I haven't left anyone out in that, but yeah, we have various people in various specialisms, but we all work together on different projects because there's always crossovers.
Absolutely. No, that's great. Thank you for obviously letting us know a bit of an insight into your world currently. And now I know we sort of want to cover a lot today in terms of Microsoft 365 in different areas, but I think it's always good to start with how how would people get into Microsoft 365? What are you seeing nowadays in the sort of pathway into it?
Um, I think, well, I think I'll probably start by caveating everything that we're going to talk about on this, that we could literally talk for hours. I mean, we've
Yes.
been here all day, the bar will be open by the end of it, and we just go on. So I'll cover as much as I can in the time we have, but
Yes.
I think one of the points I wanted to, well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this particular topic when we met here is I do get people popping up from time to time on LinkedIn asking for some advice. And obviously over the years, I've interviewed a lot of people, and there's quite a few misconceptions about the role of consultancy within Microsoft 365. And I've had people that I've met that think that you're pretty much a glorified note taker, that you just sit there, take notes from people, and then just hand it over, and that's it. I've had people that think that just because of all the times now my window cleaner's just turned up, it's just popped up at the side of my face. And there's so much to it. I think the first thing I would say is that while certifications are very important, and it's really important to make sure that you have them and you've got that background knowledge, it doesn't necessarily make you a consultant. There's a couple of my colleagues that I've spoken to recently about this. One who said that she feels that consultancy it's about the tech, but it's almost more about people and people skills, because it takes a lot more. You've got to know your craft, of course. You have to know the implications of certain decisions and what works well, what doesn't, based on different circumstances and scenarios. But it's a lot more about being able to work with people, being comfortable with a room of people who may be of varying levels of excitement through to aggression, maybe, but managing those people. And I think there's certain qualities that you need. You need to be passionate. You need to be willing to constantly learn. And personally, I found what's invaluable is just a sense of empathy, because you'll have people that will come to you. They won't always come to you with, we need this, it needs to do this, and it's got to look like this, and it's got to do this and this and this. Most of the time they'll come to you with, we've got a problem, and this is that problem, help. Because they might have an idea, but a lot of the time they don't know what they don't know, with 365 or with SharePoint, with Power, whatever it might be. So you need to have that empathy, because in certain cases as well, this is a small company that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look like the biggest of budgets, but to them, it's a lot of money. And so you've got to have that compassion, have that empathy, and have that passion to do good for people. And it is the most rewarding thing. I mean, I've said to you before, and all my colleagues know, I love what I do, and I will never see myself going back to anything else. But there is the phrase of, if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And I don't actually think that's true, because it's really hard, but it's great. But I love it, and I would never do anything else, because it's so rewarding. I mean, I've had a conversation recently where I almost compared it with parenting, where anyone else who's on this session at the moment who's a parent will know full well the trials and tribulations of it, and how your day towards the end might end with you just really controlling your rage with, would you just brush your teeth? But then at that end point, when your son or your daughter just look at you and say, no, daddy, and they give you a hug, everything that came before it's gone. And it's a very similar feeling, not quite to the same level, of course, but where you go through all the struggles on a project, and then at the end of it, when that client looks at you in the eye with sincerity and says thank you, because you've made a difference, it's so worth it. And so I think, I spoke to a colleague of mine who's been with us for about 3 months now, and she's relatively new to this side of things, and I asked her what she thought about sort of her either misconceptions or surprises and things like that. And some of the things I've just brought up on my screen to make sure I get it right, but she said it was incredible the amount of depth and complexity that you go into in this game. It's not just a case of you create a site, give them a document library and say, on your bike, good luck. And also, there's no shame in saying, I don't know. Don't think that because you've got certifications that you're going to go in and know everything, and people will respect you more for saying, I'm just not sure. But it's more about constant learning. It's always learning, no matter who you are, what you do. And I'd also say there's so much within this stack. You can't be a specialist in everything. And be knowledgeable, be able, but find your area, your niche, the thing that you love doing, and focus there and get good at it. And so keep that learning, keep the certifications, but just know that it's more about the people. Get that confidence up, and that only comes with experience. So get that experience. That's what builds you up. It's hard, but it's awesome, and I love it, and I know my colleagues do as well.
Yeah, For sure. I think you've touched upon so many really important points. A few, which is quite nice. Quite a few things overlap with previous podcasts as well. And I think it just really solidifies those facts that everyone is saying. Certifications, as you said, they're not the main thing, but they're going to solidify your learning, of course. And because it's such an ever evolving sort of industry to be in, it's good to sort of keep up to date, otherwise you'll get left behind.
Exactly.
But as you said, those people skills and being able to have that empathy and being able to just talk to them on a human level, but also use all your technical jargon and everything to then deliver what they want is really important to differentiate between.
You got to speak in terms that people will understand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've recently had SharePoint implemented within our systems. Oh God, if anyone was trying to talk to me about that, I would have a basic understanding, but I wouldn't probably be able to vocalize very easily what it is we're wanting. And sometimes you guys are sort of those, piecing the puzzle pieces together. Well, that was a really big mouthful. Putting it all together for the parts that we might not be able to communicate across to you guys as well. So I think that's super important. Now, from your aspect, I know you said you've interviewed quite a lot of people. Now, from what I've seen, obviously I'm in the recruitment space. We do cover M365, but as you've probably seen, we've sort of in recent years been more D365 since we've started. So from what we've seen, I think especially nowadays, since the market has been really tough, and I think we'll cover post-COVID and COVID and all of that and later on. But I think I've seen a lot where the industry hasn't really allowed people from prior consultancy backgrounds to move into these roles. So for you, Alex, and in the M365 world, and I'm actually interested to know because I love Microsoft 365. That's an area that I want to branch more into. But have you seen many people from sort of different backgrounds, which are still sort of relevant, but being able to come into the industry as easily? Do you feel like it's been maybe a little bit more difficult in recent years? What's your view on that?
I think some of it maybe depends on the needs of the company that's recruiting, because you don't want too many people at the top, and you want people sort of that can come in fresh, that maybe have fresh ideas and that they can learn and grow in that. And so, but I mean, we've brought in people that have had a lot of years of experience in consultancy. We've brought in people that have had none, but they've worked for a company within a Microsoft 365 role, and they've helped them get on board with it, and they've learned what they've learned that way. But now they want to come and just do it. I mean, that was how I started. I was in a knowledge management team for a company for many years. And when I moved into consultancy, it was a completely different ballgame. But they brought me in having had no experience at all with client-facing roles. But there was a gap there for someone of my particular skill sets there. And it was a bit of a baptism by fire. I still remember my first session being put in front of a boardroom, and I couldn't have my hands on top of the table because they were like that underneath it. They gave me a cup of coffee. I couldn't drink it because I was going like that. But it gets easier as time goes by, the more you do it. And so I think that there is quite, I think, a big need out there for consultants, and I think it really is circumstantial. Some people need someone to come in at a senior level that's got 5-10 years experience, but there's also the need. We don't want too many, what's the phrase, too many chiefs.
Yes.
And you need to bring in people that can be able to learn and apply the work and do the delivery a lot more, because it also comes down to billing rates as well when you're on projects as well. And so I think it's a real mix, but I don't think I've seen too much of an issue with barriers in that way. It's because it's all about the right person. It doesn't matter what else it is about you. If you're the right person, you're the right person.
Okay, no, that's good. I think it's nice for people to know that might have a bit of a passion for M365 and thinking they want to get into the industry, but they feel like they can't because they haven't got that prior experience. It's quite refreshing to hear. Actually, to be fair, as someone who interviews people, I'm sure that those soft skills and how you come across is probably very important in that decision making as to if they could be a consultant.
Yeah. It's not about what you are now, it's about your potential. And a lot can be gathered from that by just how you converse, how you handle yourself, and who you are.
Absolutely. So I know we sort of briefly skimmed across the COVID side of things and the impact
Yeah.
that has had. Obviously, we know you've been in tech for quite a while, so it'll be interesting. How did that impact your M365 world?
That was easily the busiest time of my career. It was massively so.
Okay.
I was exhausted because we
No further for you.
I've honestly I've never known anything like it. I mean, at the time, one of my biggest clients was in healthcare, and so we ended up working so much for them to help them out. We were doing everything from sort of getting them better in 365 to building power apps for staff lateral flow tests and all these sorts of different things. But the other thing as well was a lot of companies suffered from panic migration. So they had to work from home, but they didn't have the right infrastructure in place for people to work from home to get their stuff. And so they had to just quickly lift and shift. And they had no choice. So it was fair enough, but they knew it wasn't the right way to do it, but they had no choice. And we see similar things now, companies that we see several cases where companies have had cybersecurity incidents. And so they'll, in a panic, lift and shift. But COVID was the biggest of that. And they would have to do it in retrospect, and it meant they didn't get the chance to do it the right way, the way that you need to do it. Because it's not just a case of lifting stuff over into SharePoint and going, right, happy days, job done. Because, yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that we could talk for ages on, but it's things like cleansing. You're going to have years, if not decades, of old data that doesn't need to be there or really shouldn't be there. And so it's an opportunity to cleanse. Anytime anyone says to me, well, let's move it over and we'll clean it when it's there, my response, I bet my house you won't. So do it beforehand. Think about the structure. Think about how people are working. Most places on file shares have a single thing with a folder per department or something like that, or functional, whatever it might be. Think about how we want to better structure it, give people their own sites, and think about analyzing what we've got, cleansing it, restructuring it. I once worked with a council who said, I don't think anyone's been to the bottom of our folder structure before. So just think about those things and tidy it up. And then you start to think more, do we want to start tagging our content when it's in there so that we've got better search experiences? Do we maybe need to start thinking about compliance? Do we want to have retention, sensitivity, all these things that we're paying money for? Do we want to make use of it? Is it right? But without overwhelming. But the biggest problem I think that I personally found was adoption, because all this stuff was done at speed, at haste, in panic, and there wasn't the right change management strategy put against it. And so I've worked with companies who had gone over with COVID, and even now they say, we don't know what we're doing with this stuff. We don't know if we're doing it right. We don't know if we should be doing something different. We don't know what there is. We don't know what we don't know. And so an effective change management strategy behind all that is just golden. It's making sure that people are communicated with, making sure that it's like the 5 pillars of a methodology called ADKAR, built by ProSci. So you've got the steps to successful change. You've got awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And I'm quite relieved I remembered all those in order, by the way.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
So it's the stages that it needs to follow. So people need to know that the change has got to happen. They've got to have the willingness to change. But then there's the knowledge about how to change, but there's a difference between knowledge and ability. I know kind of how to do stuff, but I can't actually do it myself. And then there's reinforcement and the ongoing reinforcement of the positivity of the change and its success. And so making sure that people are aware, we're going to this, it's going to be great because of this. This is how we work with it, giving the training programs to people, making them aware of the things that relate to them, dealing with resistance. And it's not just about how best we use SharePoint. There's all these other tools that you're paying money for that you can use within this. So use them. And just because then you help get rid of shadow IT, because people might be off buying their own licenses for third-party products when they get it as part of what you already own.
Yeah.
So there's so much to think about. A lot of prerequisite work. It's not just as simple as lift and drop. You've got to take this stuff into consideration.
Absolutely. No, you seem very, very client centric, and you like just the way that you're talking is very people orientated, and that education piece, I think, is massive, because there's still companies out there that will implement the system and that aftercare hasn't really been put in place. And as you said, then that's leading to companies paying for third parties, when actually, if someone sat down and educated them on what their system can do, and if it's just having those conversations with your clients, you would save them hundreds, maybe thousands of pounds. And it's crazy.
Take into account as well the efficiencies that they could have had in all that time by knowing their systems better, knowing their technologies better, and the time that could be saved in people's roles. But I mean, we always plan for the longer term as well, because it's not just about training the people you have now. It's about making sure that the people that start in 6 months, 12 months time can also be trained, because SharePoint isn't just SharePoint. It's different in every organization. It's not just this is how you use SharePoint. It's this is how we use SharePoint. So you've got to factor that message in as well, and make sure that anyone coming in future can also be brought up to speed.
Absolutely. And have you found, even like post-COVID, like what have you seen be the main sort of issue in setting up any sort of Microsoft 365 product? What have you seen has sort of been that main barrier to like a seamless implementation?
Well, I mean, I think you could probably answer that differently depending on the area of 365 you were talking about, because it could be that we're talking about compliance. It could be that we're talking about just digital transformation. But I think, well, change management is always at the forefront of my mind, because that's the part that can help alleviate a lot, because some of the barriers can sometimes be resistance. It can be people's unwillingness to change. I've been doing it this way for 20 years. It's always worked for me. Why should I change?
Yeah.
It can be just getting the right people involved in the project that are not only willing to make decisions, but are actually able to, I suppose not enforce is too strong a word, but able to actually implement those decisions and have that, say, credibility maybe. So making sure you've got the right people on the project that can work with various stakeholders with you to get that done and get those decisions in place, get that planning there, make sure everyone's happy. I think those are some of the barriers I see. It doesn't necessarily stop a project, but it can make it last a lot longer than it really should.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. And yeah, as you said, I think a lot of those things, as long as that communication piece is there between you and the client, can hopefully be avoided. But we know it's not always going to be perfect. But that's that adaptability, communication, and sort of getting through to the other side of it, basically.
It's rarely perfect, but it's about being prepared for when things go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, and not panicking.
Exactly. Yeah. Or at least not letting them know you're panicking.
Yeah. Now, I know one other thing we wanted to cover, and it's sort of an area that I probably don't know too much about. So I think I'm quite interested to know. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about the evolution of intranets and moving more from a static information hub to a culture-driven platform.
Yeah.
Now, for those that are watching that might not know what an intranet is, etc., what that keyword might be, let's talk about that. I might look a bit clueless at some points, but here to learn.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, intranets are really, they're my bread and butter. They're the things I've always loved. I love intranet projects for a great many reasons. But I mean, if I maybe explain an intranet through how I perceive its evolution, perhaps. So when I first started working with them, intranets were very much sort of bottlenecks. They were, I mean, you go back to the old bulletin board systems. It's a place where you go, by definition, I think I would say it's a place you go to do your job, to get the things you need to do your job. So it could be policies, procedures, guidelines, it could be news, it could be resources, all sorts of things. And in the earlier years, they were very much a bottleneck, because if you wanted a change being made, even if it was a bit of text, you might have to go to your IT team, because they would code it and it would be done that way. In the earlier days of SharePoint, I saw a lot of cases where you would still have to go to IT, because it would all be locked down to them and they would make the change for you. And that created bottlenecks, not just in the speed of updates and change of data, but the volume of data, the volume of information that was on there, and the usefulness of it, and the time that people would put into it. And as time has gone by, an intranet has gone from being something that's IT owned and IT driven to something that's business owned and business driven, but supported by IT a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time now. And so all the intranets that we work on, 9 times out of 10, it's business members that are owning the sites, they're updating the sites, and we train them in how to do it, and SharePoint makes it really easy now. And there's all sorts of new things that have come in, but I was asked, it's about a year ago now, I think, I was on a pre-sales call and somebody's just threw a question at me saying, what do you think technologically has been the biggest change and impact on intranets in the last few years? And I flipped the question back and I said, to be honest, I'm not sure I would label a technological feature as being the biggest change in intranets. Well, the biggest change I've seen is culture and the cultural application to intranets now. I mean, you go back to when I started, it was exceptionally rare you'd see things like a well-being hub or a diversity and inclusion hub, things like that. You wouldn't see them. But now it's rare that you would see an intranet without them. And an intranet's become much more of a place for the people of the organization. It's there's a phrase, I don't know if I coined it or if I heard someone say it and then just credit for it, but it's an intranet shouldn't just be a place that you need to go, it should be a place that you want to go. And that's what we're starting to see. So many more intranets now do have this space for organizational news, but the ability for other people to post news as well and feed it through, feeding in social channels so that people are able to chat and share thoughts, ask questions, sell stuff, things like that, all that sort of stuff. But you still have that need for the common stuff that every intranet has, like policies, procedures, guidelines, templates, but making it easy, making it really, really easy to get to the stuff that we want, building proper life cycle, because historical intranets have just been left to go stale, and you've got to make sure that your content's kept up to date, it's refreshed, there's no duplication, but also just making it look good, because I mean there's so many cases where I won't use a website because I can't stand its interface. I think it looks rubbish. I'd rather do something else. And it's an intranet is the same. If it looks good, then it makes a big difference. It's all, even if it's subconscious, it makes a difference. And there's also a big swing that I've seen for frontline workers. So in the past, there was intranets that were for your corporate staff, not those that might work in factories or shop floors, whatever it might be. And there's a big change with that now as well, keeping them included so that you're all part of one whole. And that's how an intranet should make you feel. You're part of one complete team and everyone's on an equal playing field on that intranet. We access everything we need to. It's kept clean, it's managed, and it feels like it's for us, not to us.
Okay. No, I like that. I love that explanation.
And I think intranets is one of the projects that can often be the most fun because everyone gets creative. And then you get what I call playground mentality, because one department might see another department's site and think, that's better than mine, I want it. And then that helps with adoption as well. And everyone sort of wants to get their bit looking great. It's brilliant. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I've never heard of these type of projects, to be fair. So it's interesting sort of learning a new branch to Microsoft and obviously just technology as a whole. So what I wanted to also ask, and I think I probably know the answer, but I'll ask anyway. But what I seem to be seeing with Microsoft technologies is they're becoming very user friendly.
Yeah.
So it's giving the people of businesses more of a chance to be a little bit more hands-on and involved themselves. As you said, historically, you'd always have to ring up your IT team. And obviously, like even with my business, I mean, we've got Microsoft implemented, but we still occasionally have to go to IT to help resolve some issues. But have you ever thought that where tech is evolving, do you ever worry that maybe your job is going to be a little less hands-on because other, the businesses are becoming hands-on themselves? What's your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask. I mean, especially when it comes to AI and
Oh yeah,
Copilot, because
yeah.
that's going to be everywhere. It's changing. We're already seeing it changing intranets. With people don't necessarily want to go through a shopping basket search experience. They just want to say, how do I do this? And then Copilot will tell them. And it does it brilliantly on intranets. And but I think it's not so much that roles will be removed. I think it's that we just need to adapt to change. And
100%.
the demand will change. So it's, I mean, yeah, granted, we don't do, I mean, if you looked back 10 years ago, I would have always had a developer and a dedicated designer on an intranet project. because it needed some back-end code, even within SharePoint, to get it looking great. But now we don't. And so things change. Those designers now take on different roles in more specialist bits. We ourselves adapt. And there was a comment. I hope I'm okay saying this, but there was a comment I saw on I think it was something someone posted on LinkedIn, where they were saying about AI removing your job, and he said, well, to use AI, you have to really know what it is you actually want. So I think we're safe, because a lot of the time people don't actually know. Doing it is easy, doing it right is something very different.
That is very true.
I think it's just a shift in the role. I don't think it's a removal of it. And AI isn't going to replace every single job. It's there to make jobs easier. But when the internet came out, people were in uproar because it put people out of jobs. But unfortunately, times change, don't they?
Yeah, and you do have to roll with it. And I think, because my opinion's always been very similar to yours, it's not going to get rid of jobs. We're just going to have to change with the ways of it. But even with the sense that as an IT consultant yourself in your years, even you guys encounter issues and have to then work together or maybe consult with someone else to work together over a problem. If it was just in the hands of a user like myself, and we were left with no IT teams and just a robot to help us, you wouldn't get the desired outcome. So
Yeah.
I think always that need for human interaction and knowledge, because
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, but I know what you mean. That's
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know I'm just looking at the time once again, and I get shocked at how quick things go. I don't know if there's sort of any last points you want to talk about or discuss before we wrap up.
No, I mean, I guess. I guess maybe if I just go back to that, I think all of this relates to kind of the life as a consultant, doesn't it, and the experience.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if there is anyone out there, I mean, I'm always willing to answer any questions anyone might have, and answer questions for people every now and again on LinkedIn. I know sometimes it can almost sound like scaremongering the way you talk about the job, but it's great. I love it. And anyone that wants to get into it, give it a go, and don't be frightened by the shaky hands in the first meeting you have.
Just go for it.
Yeah.
No, but it's so nice because I end up talking to people that just are so passionate about their job, and I think for you and like you, I think what's nice is like being able to, as you said, just that journey of a consultant and the impacts you can have. I wouldn't know what rewards you get out of your job because I don't do it. So being able to discuss it and just see the smile on your face when you're talking about it and not looking grumpy is obviously a good sign.
Yes.
No.
And the arms flapping about, gesticulating while I'm talking about it as well.
Absolutely. Well, look, Alex, obviously it's so lovely speaking to you. As we said, we probably, if we could talk about M365, it would be for hours, maybe days. And we've squished quite a lot into 30 minutes. But for everyone watching, as I mentioned, if anyone does end up dropping comments in afterwards, myself and Alex can keep an eye on them. As Alex mentioned, if anyone's got any questions, he's quite a friendly, I need to point this way actually, I think, a friendly, bubbly person and is happy to answer. But yeah, I mean, I think that's all until next week. But Alex, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for
I'll
having
speak
me.
to this anyway. But yeah, enjoy everyone, and we will see you next week.
Cheers.